Hey, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be checking some fields. I'm going to be using a drone to do that. I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to show you kind of what the landscape is like here in Western Oregon. And it's a little windy outside, so we'll see if this lapel mic works in some pretty good wind, and also the drone. I hope it flies okay in this. It's like 10 to 15 mile an hour wind, which I know for some of you that's not a lot, but for us that's pretty breezy. So anyway, so I'm going to be checking crops and just kind of getting some overall scenery shots probably, and it is beautiful in my opinion, so I thought I'd share that with you. So basically what we're going to be looking for is it's checking the field edges for downed limbs and sticks and stuff that fall out of the trees and bushes. That's kind of a pain when you're doing grass seed like we do. You cut the grass really low to the ground before you harvest, and so if there's sticks and debris, branches, etc. that fall out of the fence rows and you don't see them, then the grass like grows up around them, and then you are liable to pick them up with the swather and then take them through the combine, which is not what you want to do. So I'm going to set up the drone here and we'll get started. This particular drone is the DJI Mavick Mini 2. Another thing I'm going to be looking for, as I was saying, is flooding, because we have a ton of rain. It's been pretty wet. Not terrible for us, but it's good to just check and see if there's water standing in a field, to see where it's at, because it's so wet you can't drive into the field this time of the year. So we'll be looking to see where we need to do some drainage or land improvement. Yeah, this is a really sweet little drone. Works really good. Very stable. I haven't flown it in quite this much wind, which we'll see what happens, but I think it'll be fine. You're distracting me. Forgot to take my gimbal cover off. There we go. There we go.
Take off.
Okay, another cool thing, or interesting thing I guess, about this field is this actually belongs to the state parks of Oregon, and we lease it from them. So that's kind of a interesting tidbit there. This river right here is the Willamette River. It's where we get all of our irrigation water for this particular area. Okay, one field done. Wow. This thing actually does incredibly well in the wind. It kept giving me high wind warnings, but it's very stable. I'm surprised and impressed at how stable it is in the wind. I don't know exactly what the wind is, but it's a stiff breeze, to say the least. Okay, no flooding in that field, but there was a limb down, which I see, so now I can go out here later and pick that limb up before the grass comes up too high and covers it up. So glad I checked. On to the next one. I forgot to mention that last field that I was looking at, that was annual ryegrass. And then so now I'm heading up to another field about 4 miles away, and that's going to be wheat. And one thing I'm going to check for there is goose damage. We have a serious Canadian geese population. Sorry, I hate talking to the camera and looking back and forth to check for traffic, but gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, Canadian geese are migratory, and they come here into Western Oregon in the fall, right when all of our crops, which they love to eat, are emerging, and so they can destroy a field really fast. To get a big flock of a couple thousand geese in a field, they will mow it down like there's nothing to it. So that's another thing I'll be checking for on the wheat field. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm also checking for gophers. It's hard to spot gopher hills from a distance because they're kind of hid in the grass. But with the drone, when you're looking straight down on the top, you can see them, and then you can go out and set some gopher traps. It's another thing we have to worry about here. Since we do cut our crops like right at the ground, if you have like a ton of gopher holes or mole hills, it just puts a lot of dirt into the crop because you're cutting it off right at the ground. So we try to keep our moles and gophers down as much as we can. Okay, here we are at the second field. I'm going to try something new here with this drone. Supposedly you can launch it out of your hand. Let's see, how do I do this? There we go. It's supposed to just hover. So let's see. Yes, sir, it does. So anyway, I just pulled a serious rookie mistake, and I was filming myself talking about this field and realized after I got back in the truck that I was still in time lapse, so I didn't get any of that footage. Unbelievable. So anyway, what I was saying, this field, it has some seagull sitting in it, some birds. I thought it was geese, and I flew out closer to them, and turns out it's not geese, it's seagull, which is weird because I've never in my life seen seagull sitting in one of my fields. We pretty much just see them at the beach, sometimes near rivers, but not this river, so interesting. Come on. It does work. So you could see it it sensed my hand and didn't want to land at first, but then it did come down, so that was kind of cool. I didn't want to land it down in the mud here. There's not really any good place for it to land, so it's another cool thing about these drones. You can launch them and land them in your hand. So anyway, if you're into drones, this is a pretty cool little drone. It's working out good. So yeah, check this out. There's these, like I was saying, these seagulls. See if I can get them. All those white birds, they're seagulls. Honestly don't know what they're eating. I don't think they eat grass and wheat, but I don't know, I guess. Apparently they're not scared of the scarecrows. Anyway, whoa, zoom, okay. Anyway, like I was saying, this field's really wet. We tried to get it drained this year, and it is better than it was, but it's still, as you can tell, there's a lot of water standing in it. So anyway, that's what we got to deal with. Here in Western Oregon, we got a lot of water. I'm not complaining, because I know a lot of places in the U.S. are stuck in a drought, and it's a mess. So I'd rather have too much water than no water. So I am thankful for that. Okay, so on this field, I'm going to take you out and physically show what it looks like up close. So this is another field of winter wheat, and it was planted about 2 weeks before that other field, and it had irrigation, one shot of irrigation water in the summer when we planted it. I don't know the other crop. Other fields may be out of the ground an inch and a half. This wheat, which is only 2 weeks older than the other, had irrigation right after we planted it. That's actually not wheat, but you can tell it's much bigger. This field was actually garlic. Here's a remnant of that. Roscoe. So that's a garlic. Let's see, focus. Garlic clove from last year's crop. And some of them are starting to sprout. That's a garlic clove. Sprouting. We'll spray that out in the spring. It's not a big deal. More garlic. Roscoe, what are you doing, buddy? What are you doing, buddy? I guess I've never introduced you to Roscoe. Springer Spaniel with way too much energy. He just runs 1,000 miles an hour all the time. I can't look at my wheat when you're laying right there. I can't look at the wheat. So anyway, winter wheat, the irrigation pivot that waters this field. Some of our fields have irrigation, some do not. Irrigation is not 100% necessary here for everything we grow, but it definitely helps when you have really dry years. It helps to just have a little bit more moisture, keep things growing through the spring. Interestingly enough, we have very dry summers here, so we have cool, wet winters, sometimes wet springs, and then our summers are dry and in the 80s and 90s most of the time, Fahrenheit. I'm going to put the drone up and go check this field out and get a little bit more footage.